In a quiet little house nestled in the heart of the province, lived a dad named Bantay. His world revolved around his best friend, his human, Marco. They were inseparable, sharing everything from morning walks to afternoon naps under the shade of the mango tree. But one day, Marco had to leave. He packed a bag, his face heavy with a sadness that Bantay could feel deep in his own bones. Manila was calling, a place far away, a place of work and necessity. Marco knelt down, his voice soft as he ruffled Bantay's ears. "I have to go, buddy, but I'll be back, I promise. Be a good boy for Tita Elena." He gave Bantay one last hug, a hug that felt too short, and then he was gone. Bantay was left in the care of Marco's sister, Elena. She was kind, always making sure his bowl was full and his water was fresh. But she wasn't Marco. The house, once filled with laughter and the sound of Marco's guitar, was now quiet. Too quiet. Every morning, Bantay would plant himself by the gate, his brown eyes fixed on the dusty road that had swallowed Marco whole. He'd watch the tricycles pass, his ears perking up at the sound of every approaching engine, only to droop again when it wasn't the one he was waiting for. The sun would beat down. The afternoon rains would come and go. But Bantay remained, a furry, hopeful sentinel. Elena would often come out, sit beside him, and gently stroke his back. "He'll be back, Bantay. He misses you too, you know." But her words were just whispers against the loud silence in Bantay's heart. Days turned into weeks, and the weeks bled into months. The air began to change. A familiar chill settled in, the kind that always came when the Burr months arrived. The neighbors started hanging colorful star-shaped lanterns. The paroles, their lights twinkling like fallen stars against the deepening twilight. The sounds of Christmas carols began to drift through the air, carried on the cool evening breeze. For everyone else, it was a time of joy and anticipation. For Bantay, it was just another reminder of how long Marco had been gone. Christmas was their special time. It was the season of extra treats, of playful games with wrapping paper, of cozying up together during the Noche Buena feast. Now, the glowing paroles seemed to mock him, their cheerful lights illuminating his loneliness. He'd watch families walking together, laughing, their arms full of gifts. He'd lie on the cold cement, his chin resting on his paws, letting out a soft, mournful whine that was lost in the festive melodies. Elena did her best to cheer him up. She bought him a new squeaky toy, a little red ball that jingled. He'd nudge it once or twice, but his heart wasn't in it. His gaze would inevitably drift back to the gate, to the empty road. He'd listen, hoping to catch the familiar rumble of the bus that brought people home from the city. But the road remained empty. On Christmas Eve, the house was filled with the delicious aroma of ham and queso de bola, and the fruit salad. The whole family had gathered. Elena's children were running around, their laughter echoing through the small living room. The Christmas tree in the corner blinked with 1,000 tiny lights. It was a perfect picture of a Filipino Christmas, warm and full of love. But a key piece was missing. Bantay lay under the dinner table, separate from the celebration. He could hear the clinking of glasses and the happy chatter, but it all felt distant, like a movie he wasn't part of. He closed his eyes, a picture of Marco's smiling face flashing in his mind. He missed the way Marco would sneak him a piece of ham under the table. He missed the feeling of his head resting on Marco's lap. Suddenly, through the symphony of Christmas sounds, a different noise chewed through the air. A faint, distant sound. Footsteps. Slow, crunching footsteps on the gravel path outside the gate. Bantay's ears, which had been drooping all evening, shut straight up. His head lifted from his paws. It was a familiar rhythm, a cadence he knew better than his own heartbeat. His heart began to pound against his ribs, a frantic, hopeful drumbeat. The footsteps grew louder, closer. A shadow fell across the open doorway, and then he saw him. It was Marco. He was standing there, a weary smile on his face, a large travel bag slung over his shoulder. He looked tired, but his eyes were searching, scanning the room until they landed on the small, furry shape under the table. For a moment, the world stood still. Bantay's breath caught in his throat. It was him. It was really him. Then, the world exploded into motion. With a bark that was a mix of a cry and a cheer, Bantay scrambled out from under the table. His eyes, once dull with sadness, were now shining brighter than any parole. He launched himself across the room, a fairy missile of pure, unadulterated joy. He leapt into Marco's arms, who had dropped his bag, and he knelt just in time to catch him. Bantay whined and yelped, licking every inch of Marco's face he could reach, his tail wagging so hard his whole body wiggled. Marco hugged him tight, burying his face in Bantay's soft fur. laughing, Andy whispering, "I'm home, buddy. I'm home for Christmas. I told you I'd be back." The entire family rushed to the door, their faces breaking into wide, happy smiles. "Marco, you made it!" Elena cried, tears of joy welling in her eyes. Hugs were exchanged all around. The living room, already warm, was now overflowing with a love so palpable you could almost touch it. Marco, with Bantai still cradled in his arms, was pulled into a big family embrace. The Christmas lights twinkled, the paroles glowed, and the house was finally, truly, complete. Later that night, as the family gathered around the table for Noche Buena, Bantai wasn't under the table. He was sitting right beside Marco, his head resting contentedly on his lap. Marco would sneak him little pieces of ham, just like old times, and Bantai would accept them with a happy little sigh. The house was filled with warmth, laughter, and the spirit of a Christmas made perfect by a promise kept. As the clock struck midnight, Marco looked down at his loyal friend, whose eyes were heavy with sleep but bright with happiness. Under the soft glow of the Christmas lights, he knew he was exactly where he was supposed to be. He was home. Thank you for watching.